Pick up your poo. Ex-Love Islander Ollie Williams talks dog mess and the risks of grazing his stock on public access land.
I think that should be Farming Britain's first actual campaign, Poo Awareness Day.
Oh. Highland road trip. Crofting Niall Rowantree gets rear-ended by his blind bull.
Oh, bugger me! He's sort of the Casanova of the Shetland cattle.
Then takes us to meet the farmers of the Cairngorms National Park. They hit the headlines protesting about Scotland's Beaver Fever.
It's almost like the people are an obstacle to the bigger rewilding type objectives.
Then our trip turns down memory lane.
This was actually capturing a way of life that was disappearing from the Highlands.
We have news and farming YouTube. Welcome to Farming Britain.
That didn't sound good.
For those of you who haven't heard of Ollie Williams, he hit the headlines when he appeared in the show Love Island. Now he's fallen in love with farming his family estate in Cornwall.
And now it's just a game of operation with a swing shovel. Wouldn't be able to do that with that. That is skills. We need to be promoting and championing the thousands of men and women all over the country that spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, working to put food on your plate. You had an old, I think they've taken it down now, but it was an old set of hanging gates, and the hanging gates would come along these rails and it would push the cows. Slowly but surely push them, and they come through here.
They've been farming here for generations, but it's not been all milk and honey.
At this point we're now a cow.
This is what remains of their state-of-the-art dairy from the early ooze.
And here's the rotary unit. So we'd have foreman working up there and have two guys on the floor. I remember, I was only very young at the time, but I remember it, in full swing and early mornings and even filling up the milk bottles. We've got 3 skeletons of their dairies on the estate. This is obviously the biggest one, but then the other 2 are small-time tenants who'd been tenants of the estate for probably hundreds of years. They're probably sort of 7th or 8th generation farmers, and because of it, and they've had to go and say, we can't do that anymore.
The farm is now all about beef and a sideshow of pigs. We'll meet Donald the boar next time. The 90 Herefords are managed by Matt with Ollie's help, which is welcome, but sometimes destructive. How did he do it?
I'm not entirely sure, moving old bales I think. But he also at the same time, so that was the first one, but literally within 10 minutes or so, he then rode up against a bale with a handler and smashed the door. Yeah, all the glass had gone and smashed, but we've all done it. I'm not criticising. We all have our moments.
This morning they're breathing life into the hedging surrounding their grazing and clearing up after Storm Aisha left her mark.
Jeremy Clarkson would say it's another farming device which could kill you in the most foul way. Yeah, these hedgerows, as many tourists often find out in the summers, are not just hedge, it is solid stone walls, many of which are hundreds of years old, especially stuff on the moor. You see those, they're probably thousands of years old realistically. They're important wildlife corridors, they're important boundary markers for the landowners, for the farmers, but also their heritage. Yeah. So
you're talking to me here with a cowboy hat on and a check shirt, right?
Yeah.
So you take this, even though you don't look like you take it seriously. You take it seriously.
Of course I do. No, I've recently actually started watching Yellowstone, so I now think I'm Rip Wheeler, basically. No, I'm kidding, of course. No, but I've got a variety of hats which you'll see throughout the time. It's about to blow off as well, isn't it? As I say that. Okay, God, I get the picture. I'm not a cowboy.
Re-establishing the fences and hedge lines is a job that needs doing, as Ollie and Matt have had to take their cows off the land they've traditionally used because of dogs. Actually, you can't blame the dogs. It's the dog owners.
A lot of our grazing is open access, and that is unfortunately where the issues with the neospora occur, is because the dogs poo and people necessarily don't always clean up after their dogs. And then if they do, they just leave it in a bag on the floor, which is the most annoying thing pretty much in the world. I don't understand that logic. What neospora does is it affects the cow's ability to have calves, and if they do have calves, you know, they're usually stillborn. People, I don't think, are aware of the impact that just leaving a dog poo on the ground in an area grazing cattle actually could have on that cow's and the farmer's, you know, life. So, yeah.
Poo
Awareness Week. We should. I think that should be Farming Britain's first actual campaign. Poo Awareness Day.
Oh, it's got legs.
It's got legs. Dog Poo Awareness Day. That's not because you know, and we include the ability to say, actually don't bag it up and hang it in a tree like a bed.
Why don't we put, like in the summer, why don't we put like a fluorescent luminous jacket on you, and we can do a day poo patrol?
Because you've never seen someone to be told to F off more in one day than me if we did that. Who are you then? Where's your time? Yeah. Honestly, mate, I'm just wearing a high vis. I thought
you get away with murder wearing high vis.
Yeah, well, that's true. That is true. You know,
we print it on the back saying Ollie's Poo Patrol.
I'm already locally hated enough, David, before adding Poo Patrol to my repertoire.
Neosporosis is now thought to be responsible for the highest percentage of all cattle abortions reported in the UK, and there are no drugs to treat it.
The first year we discovered it, I think we culled between 35 and 40 cows. So we let them calve, we got the calf off them, and then obviously he had made a note of them, so we knew which ones were in, and didn't put them back to the bull the following year. Yeah, big impact on the herd and the overall progress, really. I mean, we were calving 100 cows a few years back, but obviously this has sort of put an end to all of that, and we've had to change our tack a bit. So that didn't sound good. That sounded like a barn breaking.
Okay, we go and check.
Yes, absolutely. So this board has moved ever so slightly, but yeah, it'll all be good. We'll have to fix that when the cows are out.
It's a deep litter system, and he's allowed to use the straw spreader for the first time. Pretty fun. That's the first time using it. Matt and Ollie make a good team and clearly love their roles. We'll return when they've had their calves and their piglets. This is Farming Britain News. Tractor protests are increasing across the UK. As well as the protests we covered in London, farmers held a rally of a dozen tractors and other farm machinery through Truro in Cornwall to protest at what they say is a lack of support for their industry. Also, 5,500 pairs of wellies were left outside the Welsh Senedd to protest against job losses. The protests drew criticism from BBC TV presenter Chris Packham, who says the action means the public will miss hospital appointments and funerals. The protests follow a lead from farmers in continental Europe. In Spain, 20 tractors blocked the centre of Malaga and dumped lemons outside a government office. Land ownership in Scotland has become even more concentrated. That's the conclusion of research from land reform campaigner Andy Whiteman. He says that despite 2 decades of land reform legislation, with green capital investors becoming increasingly dominant, half of all privately owned rural land in Scotland, nearly 8 million acres, is held by just 433 people, and companies, with only 2.76% of rural Scotland held by community groups. In response, the Scottish Government has introduced a new Land Reform Scotland Bill, which includes measures to force landowners to split estates of more than 1,000 hectares into smaller lots if they want to sell up. All bird keepers will be expected to complete a poultry register. Anyone keeping birds in England, Scotland and Wales will now have to register their birds. Currently, only those who keep 50 or more birds had to fill out the DEFRA form. The legal deadline for registration is the 1st of September 2024 in Scotland and the 1st of October 2024 in England and Wales. Link with more details below. It's the battle of the TV stars. Hollywood hardman Vinnie Jones says his show on Discovery is completely different to that of Jeremy Clarkson's Farm. Vinnie added that his show is about the countryside, not about some novice who's bought a farm. Gamekeeper's son Vinnie takes on 2,000 acres of West Sussex countryside and a host of over-ambitious farmyard build projects for a TV series, Vinnie Jones in the Country, available on Discovery Channel. A farmer in Wales says he's never seen anything like it before after his ewe gave birth to a lamb weighing 35 pounds or 16 kilograms. Mylia Jones from Powys helped with the birth on his farm in Llandagvan near Oswestry on Sunday. The animal is over 3 times the size of a regular lamb. Guinness World Records says it did not recognise the weight of lambs and so could not confirm whether the animal had broken any records. You are now up to date with Farming Britain News. We first filmed Neil's croft in August last year. It's a blank canvas both inside and out.
Crofting isn't a thing of vast incomes, so sensible spend, sensible return.
But there's great potential. He has pasture and silage fields, access to hundreds of acres of common grazing on the moor above the croft, and there's also a share in a flock of sheep owned collectively by the crofters along his strath.
If they want crofters to play a big hand environmentally in Scotland in the future, then making sensible, sustainable use of common grazing and supporting livestock grazing on common grazings that keeps them in good condition is going to be really important. It'll keep people on the land and it'll help them sequester this carbon that they want to in peatland. Because one of the worst things for peatland is too much woodland expansion drying the peatland out. So things like Hebrideans and a few cattle will keep the moorland a good heart.
Okay, one thing we noticed, we went up onto the moorland, no grazing.
Very little, and one of the issues for crofting is the demographics of it. I'm probably quite a young crofter, and I'm steady. And that's why I'm so keen for the kids to be involved. We want more young people and we want a more diverse community crofting.
Ha mi smyrchin nid a fi mi ffac o sgol, ha mi giri dolmach agus ffac yn tyl agus coint J, corman ha awn son upar nod at some bi mar sin, ach ha mi smyrchin fi mi tjena rash gu ein atcha jinin sehol seo, agus tjena rash gu croich, agus ma ha mi forstyn o'ch gydior charloch acom agus fine and dynnu og ystia gun creitioch cwtioch.
Over the past few months, the family have moved in and so have his first purchases, Shetland cattle, which need feeding.
All that happens here is the wind changes speed and direction, David, nothing else. We took the croft on just on about a year ago, so there's a lot going on with fences to repair, and himself there in the middle, Gregor, he's about as far away in genetics as he could be from the rest of them, so we'll use him as our herd bull for the next couple of years. So what I'm up to here, end of March, we'll put them onto these no-fence collars. It's a wee bit of a breeze, right enough. And we're just keeping them used to coming used for a wee bit of sugar beet and some cake, just so they come when they see us. And then they're working inside the electric fences. Once the collars go on, we'll take the collars off and they'll go out over the top of the hill here onto the common grazing. And the cows have got an important positive role, not just in beef production, but in maintaining the habitat. So that's what we're up to. Cool. So that's Tito. Come on now. This is blown away. So I think we'll just put it on the ground here today. Come on, guys. No, bugger me! Gregor, man. Come on, Tito, save yourself. There you go, lassie. Yeah, aye, no bother. He's not hitting you hard, he just can't see. He's no bother like the big fella, he's easy going. These are the original cattle of the Vikings, so these are the cattle that they brought when they settled here. And these are very classically the horns like you see on the Viking helmet. So in Shetland they refer to them as Shetland Kai, rather than the Shetland cattle. But they're one of our sort of ancient breeds. But they do well in what people would consider a harsh climate, David. And you can see they've got a good coat on them, they've got a good back on them after the winter. And they don't take a lot. We give them a bucket of concentrate just to keep them biddable. But they're in good nick, and it's been a long wet winter and they look fine for it. And he's just a hungry brute, him, that's why he tried to push me out the way. The sort of classic colour of the Shetland cow is black and white. Brown and white is a really well established colour again now, and occasionally you get full colours. And Gregor is, he's got quite a lovely colour, but all the calves that he's thrown to date are coloured either black and white or a lovely kind of grey and white. But single full colour in them is not uncommon.
And so you said he's partially sighted?
Thankfully everything else about him is fully functional. and we got him from a breeding programme that had him, but he's probably one of the most popular gentlemen in the Shetland cattle world in the north. He's sort of the Casanova of the Shetland cattle. So since we got him, we have an endless queue of people wanting to hire Sir Gregor. So we haven't seen what he produces yet out of this lot, but he comes with a good reputation. But maybe in a year's time we'll look at some of the calves we've got and we'll decide how we got on.
From blind bulls to busy beavers, and Neil takes us south to the Cairngorms National Park. The reason? To get a better understanding of why the Scottish farmers here took to their tractors in protest at the start of the year, and why one of the farmers, Ruaraidh Ormiston, called on Gareth Wyn-Jones to share their frustrations.
This goes out to Gareth Wyn-Jones, the Cairngorms Mountains over every colour, and we're coming here from the Cairngorms Mountains.
Ruaraidh's family have a 150-year history with Highland ponies, just as Gareth's family has a centuries-old history with the Cairngorms ponies.
So this is Bria, as I say, my favourite. Bria means beautiful in Gaelic. The beavers is the best thing that could have happened, because that's what rallied us together. And the first we really knew about the beavers was in August, when they were going to have a consultation at the Grantown Show. But at that point the decision had already been made, and it wasn't a consultation at all. It was just an engagement to tell us they were coming. And as time progressed, we realised that it wasn't going to be good for us. We'd gone down to Tayside, we did our homework, and what we could see was a lot different to the story that we were being given. And it culminated in, we had a meeting here, I think it was the 4th of January, and we had about 65 people turned up. And by the time we got to the National Park office on the 15th of January, we had, the 20 tractors and probably over 90 individuals. And I think we managed to get 70 of us in the room at the National Park office, but that was all it would hold. But yeah, as I said to the staff at the National Park, the beavers is the best thing you could have done to us, because it's got us on a battle footing now, and we're going to stick up for ourselves from now on.
Nature Scott has been given a licence for the release of up to 15 families of beavers within the National Park. The biggest concern for the Cairngorms crofters and farmers community, the CCFC, is the beavers will damage the 300-year-old flood walls that have allowed them to farm these lowlands. Plus, they'll eat the crops they grow here.
The argument is this bank's maybe far enough away from the river that they won't use it, but where the bank's close to the river, and I've seen this personally in Tayside, they will burrow into the flood walls and the river banks themselves. It's almost like the people are an obstacle to the bigger rewilding type objectives that they have, and they would rather we weren't here, and if we weren't here they could then do what they wanted. But you're quite right, every crofter and farmer I know is very proud of what they do for biodiversity and nature, and we're not lashing on fertiliser and cutting down hedges and making 200-acre fields. That just doesn't happen up here, and we're not given the credit for what we do deliver in biodiversity.
The Cairngorms National Park acknowledged the beavers will bring change to the landscapes of the National Park, and it says they will continue to work closely with their partners and local stakeholders to maximise benefits and minimise negative impacts. Also joining us today is fellow CCFC member John Macpherson. He shows us some wonderful archive of a world where people and landscapes were as one.
Well, this was a hill clipping that I used to go to every year on Kinrara estate. It was Dick McBain was the farmer, a Ballinluig farm it was called, on Kinrara estate. And myself and all the local communities used to go out and help with the hand clipping every year. So this year I just come back from Africa working, and I had a video camera with me, so I threw it in the back of the old Range Rover and went out for the hill clipping. And I took the camera out and just did a wee bit of filming during the day, and it was not recognised at that time that this was actually capturing a way of life that was disappearing from the Highlands. You know, the local community all coming to assist on a hill clipping. It was the last time that all the clipping was done with hand shears. I think the very next year there was generators brought out, and they were using machines to clip the sheep, which obviously involved a lot less people, and the older generation weren't part of it. It was the younger boys with their machines that were doing the clipping.
There are many reasons why farmers are taking to our streets in protest, but often the message is unclear. Here, it's simple and it's obvious. The footage shows a living, breathing landscape with people working in it, not playing in it. These Highland people feel sidelined, and they feel this landscape will be a whole lot poorer without them. Thank you to Neil, Rory and to John. And if you've missed any of our recent uploads, including the London protest and Charlotte Ashley's podcast and how to cope with wet weather with Andy Crow, then the links are in the description below. Alternatively, there's Farming YouTube with James Marchington.
This is Farming YouTube, which aims to show the latest and best farming videos that YouTube has to offer. First up, here's an emotional one from the Funky Farmer. With some help from local radio, he's finally tracked down his dad's old tractor and wants to buy it back. Meanwhile, on Harry's farm, the wheat is starting to grow again and gets its first dose of fertiliser. Plus, he offers his views on the Welsh farmers' protests. Spring means lambing on this hill farm in Kerry in Ireland, and that means trouble for Glyn and his dad, whose thick accent is, thank goodness, translated in the subtitles. It's all kicking off at Tom Pemberton's farm in Lancashire too. He's sick of bedding and feeding the Highland cattle, so they're going out, even though it's not really time. Ed at Corner Farm in Gloucestershire wants to turn his cattle out, but first he has to fix a barn that's collapsed, with the nifty use of a digger. Ollie Bloggs is on digger work too. He's clearing a ditch that's been blocked with leaves and branches over the winter, and has a spot of bother with a jump-start pack that catches fire. George Saunders is a fan of working smarter, not harder. He's got a cunning trick to use auto steer to make the job of hedge cutting easier and faster. And finally, it's taken a while, but it was worth the wait. Richard at Hedy's farm in Buckinghamshire has made this compilation of 2023. Another tough year, but his love of farming shines through. Well, that's it for this time. We've put all these films into a playlist for you. Click on the eye symbol top right or check this film's description. If you have a YouTube film you'd like us to pop into our next roundup, email us the link, hello@farmingbritain.tv.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Have a very happy Easter.